In today's episode of the Pathway Presents podcast, I have a very interesting guest here with me today. I'm with Jonathan Tasman, and he's hailing over from the folks over at Spec. He's a senior marketing manager at the team, and essentially, yeah, how do I explain Spec? Obviously, new to it, so essentially, it helps to unlock instant. I mean, there's a lot of things that they're saying on the website: insights, trust, orchestration, and basically all about identifying trust, fraud, and payments data into one single source of truth. So today we want to really figure out what Spec is all about and how Jonathan is thinking about growth for the company. So welcome to the show.
Hi, Lucas. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So maybe give us a quick insight. What would you say is, Spec all about in your own words?
Yeah, so Spec, we built this trust cloud, which for conversational purposes, we would say that it's like a data platform partially,
Hmm. Hmm.
where we are orchestrating different APIs, we're orchestrating data into a single source of truth so that business teams don't have to be bottlenecked by waiting for engineering to come in and make fixes or updates or implement API for them. And
Hmm.
we're trying to empower these business teams to solve a $44 billion a year problem with all the fraud that's going on. And we all know fraud's kind of constantly increasing just because technology is always racing ahead of us. So
Hmm.
we're here to help solve that.
Simple and succinct, how you described a very complex topic. I'm sure it is.
Try,
So,
try to.
very good. So maybe tell us like what organizations do actually benefit the most? Like, what setup do I need to have so that I can actually, that I'm a great fit for Spec, basically.
Yeah, so we have currently been living in the verticals of e-commerce and marketplaces and then some fintech. We're branching off into fintech, but we've also had people who have ended up finding out about us and then coming over as entertainment and streaming platforms as well. So it's been a pretty fun ride at this point where people just start hearing about us. They're like, oh, I think we could use that. We need to talk. And then we start having conversations, and they are pleasantly surprised with the ability to move forward a lot quicker than they've been used to.
Hmm. Super interesting. Now, when you say they, you're figuring out who is that? Like, who's typically the person in the organization that says, you know what, actually, that makes a lot of sense. Is that like from an operational point of view? Is that from a finance angle? Is it from the CTO, technical leads? Who is raising the hand?
So it's a full it's a full pie because you've got the people who are actually using the platform, and then you've got their senior management, and then usually someone in the C-suite wants to be involved, where they're like, okay, so what is this going to do? How is this going to help the business? And so everyone's kind of got their hands in the journey a little bit
Mhm.
to say to get the write off on it. To say, yep, we think that this is going to help us. We're going to solve part of this problem together, and let's move forward to a trial.
That sounds a bit like a longer decision making, a longer buying journey process than your usual, SaaS product at the very beginning.
It's a pretty long process. So we've actually done in the marketing department. We've tied with sales, and we've been able to shorten the buyer journey, which has been great. Everyone's super happy about that. Internally, where it's like, all right, it used to be a 6 month thing, and now it's about 45 days, 60 days, which is great. So
Awesome. Very cool. Now, how do these folks actually hear about trust? Like, what sort of the channels that they go through that you guys are leveraging for growth?
yeah, so it's we kind of got a golden ticket. A lot of people who've come to us have been word of mouth.
Mhm.
Um, it's not the only way. We've also have a really awesome sales team that's doing cold outreach, and they come at it from a human perspective, where they say, "Hey, we've seen this is going on in the industry that you're in. We've seen that you guys just published an article of you're dealing with this thing, or there was this break in, or whatever, and we want to reach out and say, hey, we can help." And then they just have a coffee and kind of give them information of what we do and how the platform works and how the platform can help their business teams. And
Mhm.
then they go, well, we're kind of skeptical. That's totally fine. We're used to the skepticism because fraud's been done the same way for the last 50 years, and we're first to market. And when you're first to market, there's a huge education piece that goes along with that, where people are like, well, we've never done it that way, so we just don't think it's possible. And we'll go, yep, we understand that, which is why we built it. So let's talk about it. Let's give you the walkthrough of how this platform works, how it's going to help you, how it's going to speed your teams up.
And what's your perception as a marketer, right? Like bringing a new concept, such like the way a lot of trust, a lot of education is needed. Like, how does it change your perspective on what the website has to do in order to actually convert and educate and help people in their buyer's journey? What's your angle of thinking on that?
Can you say the question one more time? I think my audio cut out.
Yeah, sure, no worries. So what I'm curious is now that we have a product that basically creates a way in a new category, even for people to think how they can solve the problem, like you do. How do you as a marketer think about the website? Like what job does the website take? Is it an educational approach? Is it explaining them the product? Is it explaining the value proposition? Because you're explaining something way more complex than a very, a standard, let's say, SaaS product.
Yeah. So the website kind of plays a lot of those roles. So we've been slowly building it out. We're like working on a knowledge based part right now. We have sections to where it's like, hey, what industry are you in? What vertical are you in? And then we try to walk that vertical through. Here are the problems that we see with this vertical that we can help with. And then, for the other verticals, like it's e-commerce, we say we're going to be able to help with these things. And then fintech, we help with other stuff because we're not railroaded into single use cases
Mm-hmm.
because we're busy pulling all this data in so that these business teams can make decisions quicker and also be empowered to make the changes they need. It's it's a lot of education throughout the website, but it's also depending on when you come to us, we want to try to capture the questions or sorry, the answers that you're looking for
Mm-hmm.
on the website at the same time. So it's a living entity right now because it's a new platform because we're no code, and
Yeah.
so no code, low code has been a lot of talk in the last couple of years, but most of the first no code platforms have not had the robustness because it was new, right? Like they were blazing a trail for no code in general, and we've taken it to a step further where we want our customer experience when we onboard people to be as seamless as possible. And so we found a way to speed up our process when we're turning on the platform for folks where we can set up in less than 15 minutes where you'll start seeing data, which
Mm-hmm.
is they're always super, it's pretty funny, they're always super skeptical about that, where they're like, well, we don't expect this to go well, but let's set it up anyway. And then our product success guys are like, it's always really weird to sit there in the silence, and then they're like, oh, we're seeing data, and they're like, yep, that's the point. We're up and running.
Nice. Very cool. I mean, that's a very interesting. I mean, it's also a hard barrier as a marketer to fight against, right? If people
So
are
hard.
having, that makes a lot of sense. Curious, like in that regard, like what do you think is sort of a strength of the website versus where do you see even further room for improvement, right? Because we got a lot of marketers on the show that are continuously working on improving the messaging, I don't know, the
Hmm.
conversion rates and the likes. Like, where do you see sort of a strength versus room for improvement?
So for us in particular, room for improvement. Um, Most of our conversions come through sales outreach and word of mouth. It's
Mm-hmm.
very human, right? That's where a lot of our conversions come from.
Mm-hmm.
However, we want to we want to boost that on the website, and so it's it's just what you said. It's constantly changing the messaging for each of the verticals. It's personalizing it, right? That's big in marketing right now. We want to personalize how people are interacting. So if I'm coming in to look at Spec from the fintech industry, I want to change my language because their use cases are different. And so making sure that things on our website are relevant to that and can power that tool so that
Mm-hmm.
when they do come in, it's personalized. Also, a lot of A/B testing. But to me, I always think of websites as a living entity where if you're like, what's the purpose? I previously worked in kind of industrial, it's not manufacturing, but like we sold gondola shelving.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the things that we ran into was once they had a salesperson, they didn't need to come back to the website. And so it was my job to figure out like, how do I make the website valuable to customers after the fact? So we ended up building out kind of walkthroughs and tutorials and like additional information that would require them to come back because
Mm-hmm.
my realm as a marketer was my stats on the website are relevant to how well I'm doing my job. And so like with my website, how am I creating value for the customer? And so like always putting on that customer hat and saying, why are they coming back? Because sometimes all they need is just like they come back, they get a salesperson, they move on, and like they're in the system. But for me as a marketer, I need to engage them with value. Like no one's going out and buying something that they don't see value in ever.
Yep.
for any reason. So like, how do I present value to them? And that is the constant question I ask myself almost daily, where it's like, okay, can I bring value here today? Maybe it's changing some wording up. Maybe it's changing the SEO. Maybe it's the technical SEO. Maybe it's I'm going to try a new color out or my ad campaign or whatnot. But like always trying to generate value with the website.
Yeah, that's actually a very interesting point. We see a lot of marketers on the show, and also, in general, that are interacting with Pathmark. When they want to bring conversion goals that are valuable, sometimes they struggle, right, at the upper funnels of the buyer's journey, because,
Oh yeah.
how do you actually know what will give them value in their journey at this point, right? So what has been your way? Like, is the are you listening to sales calls? Like, what's your way to getting your chops there? What delivers value in the buyer's journey?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, we have the brilliant leadership that like said, I want sales and marketing to like be tied at the hip, which was
Hmm.
really great. And one of the things that we've been getting is I ask them like, what questions are they asking? Because I want to start to collect every question that someone asks when they're interacting with us, whether it's their first meeting, second meeting, sixth meeting, whatever. I want to know all the questions they're asking because that allows me to make better content. It allows me to address that on the website because in the last few years, we've all kind of been siloed as humans. And like, we want to just research information. Like, I don't want to buy the next car that I'm going to get without like checking the safety rating, checking, make sure it's got the paint colors I want. And maybe I want the turbo on it, whatever it is. But I don't want to talk to a salesman yet. I want to like do all the research myself. So if I can get all those questions from our sales team, which they're super awesome and they do give me those questions, um, I can put those scattered about on the website so that the value's there. Now the tough part is like where are they coming in? Which landing page did they hit? Like, can I get them
Oh,
can I make sure to get them the information? So like, first problem is the information on there? Second problem is, are they gonna see it? Maybe I didn't capture them. Maybe they just bounced after the first landing page where it's like, oh, that didn't seem relevant. But if they would have stayed on 30 seconds longer, it was relevant, right? So, I think
makes
that,
sense.
yeah.
Super interesting. Now, I would love to switch gears a little bit and jump with you a little bit into sort of, what you're doing on a daily basis and your journey as a marketer. So I have some rapid fire questions. They're a bit of a surprise for the guests, but they're harmless. Are you ready for are you ready for those?
Always.
Nice. What is the last book that you read?
The last book that I read, marketing wise or just in general,
Whatever.
I read The Devil in the White City,
Hmm.
which was about the 1800s World Fair as well as a serial killer.
Very good.
Just
What's one single thing that your company is focused on the most at the moment?
um, oh man, that one's tough. Because we're a startup, and so we're just kind of like constantly pushing the needle forward day by day. Um, I'd say we're focused on creating more value on our website, at least from a marketing standpoint. Like, that's one of the things we're certainly trying to do so that
Mhm.
we can bring in more education to the first meetings we have with folks.
If there would be no boundaries in technology, what's the one thing that you would fix for your role in marketing today?
Oh, no boundaries of technology. I would, I would, this is bad. I would remove privacy things so that I could see where people are coming in. And I just want that attribution, like all
Hmm.
marketers, right? Google Analytics has removed some attribution stuff. They're switching to Google Analytics 4. We just want to know where people are coming from as marketers. Where are my touch points with you? I would just
Hmm.
tag people like,
Hmm.
hey, I can see their whole user journey coming in.
Hmm. What's the last thing that kept you awake at night about the company?
Um, Well, it's this value thing, right? Like, I'm constantly thinking, did I bring enough value with my changes to the website? And like, is this experiment going to go well? Is my A/B test going to bring me the information and the solution that I want? Because we all want to be successful, right? We enjoy the journey, we enjoy the climbing up that hill and saying, I put my flag at the top, I did it, I achieved the thing. But sometimes like your experiments just fail, right? Like, as marketers, sometimes we do things and we don't get the answers we need, and we have to literally just go back to the drawing board and figure out, okay, I need to find a new question because the first one didn't work. And that's just a real thing that we deal with sometimes.
And for the very last question, I'd like to do a bit of time travel. Let's travel back to the days of Grand Valley State University, if you allow, right?
Yeah.
So you're heading out of formula education into the world of, I mean, digital experiences. You were a founder actually as well. Now, what's the one advice that you would give yourself for your journey?
Hmm. Whew, that's a great question. Because I've kind of been all over the place. I would tell myself that it's okay to be bad at things on the front end and to try new things and to develop skills that work on top of the skills I already have. That's what I would tell myself.
Very good. Jonathan, I really appreciate you took the time with us today to be a guest on Tasman Presents. I want to give you the very last word. If somebody would be forgetting all that we discussed about Spec, what's the one thing that people should remember?
Yeah, I appreciate that, Lucas. Appreciate you having me on here. Uh, the thing that I would hope that people take away about Spec is our vision and mission is to have an internet that people can trust. Like we can be on the internet and it doesn't have to be as scary as it could be. It's a place where we can go to websites and we trust them. We know that um, the companies we're dealing with have our interest in mind and our user experience in mind, and they want to create a trusted internet.
Thanks a lot for being a guest on Tasman Presents.
Thank you.